Alright guys, I just finished my review on the last two chapters of Naruto. Please watch that. This will be solely on, or mainly on, the announcement of part 3 of Naruto. So we got part 1 and 2. Part 1's the first, however many hundred chapters of Naruto. Part 2 is after the time skip. And then part 3 is after another time skip. And we already saw the beginnings of that initial time skip at the end of part 2. And I heard about the confirmation of part 3 in another YouTube reviewer, the top YouTube reviewer for Naruto on YouTube, Sawyer7 Mage, in his video. And the whole story sort of mentioned in my chapter review for the last two chapters of Naruto, so check that out if you want to hear the full anecdote. But long story short, there's this guy and he was somewhat of a hater, and long story short, long story short, I was just like sort of influenced by him, because he was like, oh my goodness, I don't like manga. Then you end up seeing him reading manga, and then he's like, I try and converse with him about Naruto when he reveals one day that he's caught up, and then he immediately cuts off the conversation. We could have had a great conversation for a few hours on Naruto. Boom, cuts it off, and he's just like, they dragged it on for years. They're just playing it out and out. I just want it to end. It's been long overdue for an ending. Blah blah blah. And this was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I realized that I had been influenced by him and people like him to just like, in terms of my opinions on Naruto, in subtle, small ways. And after reading these two chapters, I was just like, you know what? Screw these types of people. I personally am pretty happy about part 3 coming out, especially with part 2. Especially with the last two chapters of Naruto that I just read. And I definitely think these last two chapters really changed my opinion, because I definitely felt the last 50 chapters were, again, I honestly started caving in, because I definitely felt he was at this point where he was just throwing garbage onto the pages, because he was just so finished with this that he was just like, you know what, I don't even care, I'm just gonna throw this in. This doesn't even make sense. This is such a cliche ending. The plot's somewhat generic and boring and simplistic. I don't care. I just want to wrap up this Naruto manga. But after reading, I definitely felt like after reading the last two chapters, the author at least put in decent work, decent effort for those last two chapters to just finish things up, color them, create all these new characters for the next generation. And it's very interesting, and I'm very much excited for part 3, because I don't think everything is finished, finalized. Honestly, from my perspective, the infant Tsukiyomi still solves a lot of problems that this sort of 5-summit Kage solution that Naruto has revealed in the final chapter doesn't really solve that much. Because if you look at the real world, those sort of things, United Nations, doesn't really solve pain, tragedy, war, all those things that the infinite Tsukiyomi technically solves, although in a somewhat immoral way. So obviously there's a lot to be expanded upon. Again, Kaguya as well, where she came from and all that other stuff. Who knows? He could also pull off a spin-off manga, maybe a time-space manga that's completely off base from Naruto, on that whole thing and the origins of Kaguya, probably from another dimension or another star system. But I really feel like there's so much more to be done. I felt the Sasuke vs Naruto fight was underwhelming. I felt there's so much more to be developed in terms of ninjutsu skills and power levels. And I definitely feel like, all this sort of came about after I saw this 10 years later thing, or 10-20 years later thing that occurred in the last chapter of Naruto. I really just felt like, oh my goodness, you can bring about a lot with this. And personally, if part 3 ever comes out, which I think it's confirmed it will, in spring of 2015. I don't want a focus on the children. Like, I don't really care about the children that much. And by the way, if you saw the last chapter of part 2, one thing I didn't understand was how the heck can Naruto fail to give enough time for his child, and when his child is, when first off, he has the ability to clone himself to almost an infinite number of times, and not just clone himself, but have tangible, real clones with real conscious intelligence and memories of the original Naruto. And it's pretty much like him being at multiple places at the same time. How the heck are you busy when you could do all this with your cloning? It didn't even make sense. And the whole idea that Balt, his child, was doing these pranks out of a lack of attention. It was the same thing that Naruto struggled from. So for his dad to have failed like this big thing, and failed to realize that his own child has the same or similar struggles that he had as a child, it's like, that's the hugest falsity as a parent. I can't believe that you missed it out of everyone in Naruto. So it's just like, what the heck's going on with that? And it's just like, why can't you just clone everything? How can you be late to meetings when you could clone yourself? How can you be busy at all when you're doing that sort of stuff with the Kagebushin? But who knows what the heck's going on with that? Perhaps the author forgot to factor that in. Who knows? Finally though, I personally am, very much excited on the potential of mainly Sasuke and Naruto, and all the potential for new characters and new things going on, because there's 5 villages, but there's the whole other world of Naruto that's developed since then. New villages, new battles, new wars going on, new tragedy, new stuff. Maybe Kaguya will resurface, who knows. Now that I think about it, I don't think, like, there's only so much that can happen with part 3, so who knows if that really is a wise decision. Perhaps a Kaguya manga spin-off where we find out the origins or what star system or galaxy or universe Kaguya came from may have been more beneficial. But I do think, again, there is a lot of potential, and I think perhaps, at least for me, the last chapter, when this a new time skip took place, it really sort of revealed that potential. Like, when I saw the older version of Sasuke, that was just like, wow, what has this guy learned? What has this guy developed? Like, when he walked away from the village and said he went on his own journey, when he went on his own journey, and I saw his eyes, I was just like, he's already such a beast. He has the freaking Rinnegan in one eye, Manchu Eternal Sharingan in the other. He's going to develop some new techniques. And then when I saw him in his elderly form, it was just like, not really elderly, but middle-aged. He was just like so cool. Like he just looked like a completely different person, not so much a child or kid anymore. And it was just like, I really want to see where he goes. And at the same time though, I very much really want them to surpass Kaguya and Madara, but I don't know if they ever will, because at the end of the day, it's just like, Madara was such a genius that, like, Naruto and Sasuke had to team up to even compare. And Madara had the same toolkit as Sasuke, Eternal Manchu, Rinnegan, and that was it. So it's just like, can you top Madara? And when you think about it, like, Itachi technically was always ahead of Sasuke as a genius as well. It was just, circumstances that Itachi lost and died and Madara lost and died. And it's just like, okay, will Sasuke ever be able to beat that? Will we ever see any real potential for part 3? So that we have to keep that in mind, because when you think about it, I think Itachi mentioned and this was in the anime. I don't know if it was in manga too, but Tachi mentioned uh, he remarked on the certain age milestones for Sasuke, and he's like, Sasuke is not as good as me. When I was at that age, I was able to accomplish this ninjutsu already. So it's just like I don't know what's going to happen, but again, a lot of potential. Somewhat happy about this new part 3. I don't think I am all fine and done with reviewing Naruto, and I know Sword of Seven Mage and some others are not as well. Um, but this whole clincher, I think, in a sense, it is the end of Naruto. I feel like part 3 is somewhat gonna be like DBGT. It's like, okay, DBZ officially ended. There's DBGT for those of you who wanted more, but generally this is where it officially ends. So we'll see where it goes. I'm still somewhat happy about this sort of thing that's still going, because I don't think another manga will surface to be able to ever hit that level of Naruto for a while anymore. You know, putting aside the ones that have already hit that level, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Bleach, and so forth. But there's definitely a lot of potential out there. I'm very excited. Finally, it's over though. It's a much needed hiatus from this, in my opinion. I feel like they've been dragging it out. I feel like they should wait longer than spring of 2015 though, but that's still a decent amount of time. However, you know, great stuff. Thanks for watching. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think.